Okay, my name is Juan Benito Mancias. I'm named after both my grandfathers, and I'm very proud of that. And I'm the tribal chair for the Carrizo Comecrudo tribe of Texas. I'm actually the spokesman because I'm the one that's put a lot of the research, asked all of the questions with my grandfathers before they passed away, my grandmothers. My mother's still alive. She'll be 95 this year.
Oh wow!
So I mean, she's told me a lot about these little villages that were out here, because these are all old villages. Every one of these little towns. Mission in 1859 was a little village of Carrizos, of my people, and the Carancoas came to live with us, and it's documented.
So what time period was that? I mean,
1859.
1859.
That's right before the Civil War, you know. So I mean, that's when all of this was going on, all the pioneering coming in, the Confederate mentality was coming in. That's why the Eli Jackson, the Jackson Brewster cemetery set up over there, because they brought their freed slaves with them, and they were close to the border. They were part of the Underground Railroad, you know, that was going on into Mexico, and all of that is documented. So if people were to do research on those things, they recognize the fact that we are the people of this land. We're the people that have maintained the free, you know, we were always against slavery, and we were always against you know, the plantation mentality, because we were the first plantations here. We were the first slaves. When the Spanish came in, they were called encomiendas. These used to be Spanish land grants, which became the encomiendas and the encongreras of old. I don't think people have done any research on it, and people need to start researching those things. We've done plenty of research. We have a lot of bibliography stuff available for people to see. We've got our stories, but nobody's ever asked us, because, you know, there's no Indians in Texas.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's really interesting. I grew up in Texas, and I mean, I know of the Kickapoo because of the casino, but, you know, I've not heard as much about the Comecrudo, correct?
Well, yeah. Well, you have 3 federally recognized tribes that are actually not native to Texas, and are not original from Texas. They have their trust lands, and so that, I mean, they have that ideal of understanding. The Alabama Coushatta have been very helpful, influential in their reburials of a lot of our Gulf Coast remains that have been found, and we know we thank them for that. And but the thing is that we still need to maintain the stop digging and stop, you know, excavating and desecrating of our grounds. The Kickapoos have helped us. You know, when the coal mine that is open there in Eagle Pass, they did a fantastic job of helping us keep it closed, but now it's open again, and they've excavated human remains from there, which we know for a fact that the company Dos Repúblicas, who is a subsidiary of North American Coal Mining, which is in Dallas, the company. They relocated the remains and buried them secretly somewhere else in Del Rio. They've admitted to that, because we had evidence, and we've pushed the issue. Some of the whistleblowers have lost jobs over that with these companies, and they need to understand that a lot of lies have been. A lot of history in Texas is nothing but lies. So people are pretty accustomed to the liars and the myths, and that's why we have what we have today.
So you were talking about cemeteries. I know there's quite a bit going on here. I've talked to Father Roy about La Lomita, and we're at the Butterfly Center. But could you tell me some of what's going on with the cemetery and with the border wall?
Well, the one that we're at right now, it's on part of the Ramirez and Eli Jackson Cemetery, the Brewster Cemetery. There's the families are there, but it has a lot of our relatives, because they married into a lot of our relatives. And you got to consider that when people are doing their DNA here in South Texas, they're coming up with anywhere from over a quarter to more of blood of Native American. and they also show them that they're from. If you do the Ancestry.com, shows them that they're mostly around from this area. So, which says that they're Carrizo and their blood is strong Carrizo. We're not Coahuiltecos, you know. We don't speak that language. That language is a language that was put together by the missionary priests, and people need to understand that that's made up of 7 languages, and our language is a true, concise language, and it's a Comecrudo language, a Jocom dialect, and a Jocom language, but a different Jocom dialect. So we still speak our language. Our language was recorded in 1886, and that's why we know where some of these sacred sites are, and that's why we protect the sacred sites, and that's why we're protecting here at the Butterfly Center, because we know that right there at the bend of this there was a village. So that means the village extended all the way into this area, because right where the levee is. We know that they've dug up there at the cemetery that we're at, the Eli Jackson. They've dug up when they built the delta and they built the canals. They were digging up bones and they were just throwing them to the side. So we know that for a fact, and there's a gentleman who can tell you that his father said that story, and so we had, but nobody's asking us. They're not asking the oral history because they only want the documentation, because that's the white man's way, you know.
Yeah, there's a big difference between oral history and what is considered and needed for that documentation in court, for instance. And you guys are currently in court.
Well, we're considering. Well, we're part of several courts issues, especially down at the Boca Chica. Because of the SpaceX that's there, and
I'd love to hear about that, because I wondered. I walked from Boca Chica, and it's such a beautiful wildlife preserve and state park, and all of a sudden there's SpaceX, and you wonder why it's there and why they got the permission of all places and people to actually be there.
Well, I mean, it's because of the limited capacity of people's thinking, so they become insecure. So you create situations like the Homeland Security, you know, you create those kind of situations. And we also create, trying to distort and to attack the people who are really talking about those situations. And, you know, that's one of the things that we have to recognize, that they utilize, you know, ourselves to do those kind of divisions. But when you see the with this guy, whatever it is, I can't even, Musk.
Elon Musk.
What he's doing over there, and saying stuff like, well, you know, if a rocket comes down, it's not going to hurt anybody. You know, and you're only like 15 miles from the city of Brownsville.
So you're in a court case with SpaceX in Boca Chica?
No. With the LNG situations that are happening there.
So what is LNG?
LNG is liquefied natural gas, and that's the pipelines. If you've been there, how beautiful it is.
It's gorgeous. It's so peaceful and quiet, and all of a sudden, I mean, there's these things that pop up that are different, but it's beautiful.
We're talking about 3 LNG export terminals. Containment tanks of LNG, liquefied natural gas.
Oh, so it's containment tanks.
They're 19 stories tall.
Oh, wow.
3 of them.
Oh, I think. Wait, are they constructed?
Not yet. They're wanting to build them.
Wow.
And we're keeping them from doing it. We've kept them at least for a year and a half now. But they're wanting to start construction, and the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, is taking public comments, and so we've been at every one of them so far. And we want to be able for them to understand that they're not doing their due diligence, they're not doing their IESs. There was a pipeline that ran through there without a federal permit, and I don't know how it was done. And basically, it was one of those Texas, boot scoot things through the governor's office, which makes him liable for criminal charges. And we want to make sure that those criminal charges fall on the Secretary of State and the governor for doing that kind of crazy stuff. And we're looking for ways to do that, because it's crazy that they bypass any kind of permits without any IESs. And they've done that before. They did it with the coal mine in Eagle Pass after the Kickapoos said that they couldn't help anymore. That's what they did. They went ahead and got their. Then it was one of those boot scooting processes where they just want to scoot it right through the permits office.
Yeah.
But we know that the Christy Craddock, whatever her name is, comes from an oil family. All three of them that are on the commission come from oil family. We know that Kelsey Warren, who is the Energy Transfer Partners guy, is the one that we had the big thing up in Standing Rock, and we had the thing in South Texas down there in the Big Bend with the Trans-Pecos pipeline. That he's on the board of commission for the Texas Parks and Wildlife, and we'll be there for another 2 years. So they're making decisions that are based on their pocket, which is which is not right. That's illegal. You know, and but we know that at least 4 of the people on the Texas Parks and Wildlife Commission are all oil people. We know that the people on the Texas Historic Commission, one of them is his wife, and so they're all doing the same thing. So I mean, these things are the things that are there. It's happening all along, and they're hitting the poor counties, and these are the poor counties in the country. And and the most beautiful of what's left, this is the wildlife. You go 7 miles, and you hit urbanization, you hit gentrification. The gentrification is outrageous of what they're doing out here. I mean, right over here in Benson Park, the Winter Texans come in and they're all upset because, you know, they want to have the wall up, but they don't live here. You know, they're not dealing with the economy and how the economy is going to be affected.
Well, that's interesting because I see a lot of parks and a lot of RV parks and different things for the Winter Texans. I mean, how do you feel about the relationship between, you know, the Winter Texans coming down here, and I mean, they bring money and certain things, but I mean, do you think they take more than they bring?
I don't think that they take. They just come and dump stuff to make it worse. Because, you know, in the long run, a lot of them don't show up here except one time out of the year, so they don't actually live here. They just come to enjoy the subtropic weather, and they become a nuisance after a while because, you know, they don't want to hear what we have to say, because of course we're people of color, and they're above us, you know, because they have money and they can do that kind of stuff. I don't give them that opportunity.
And so another couple of questions. You had mentioned Standing Rock, and I believe I was talking to the gentleman who was down here from Standing Rock. Is there? I mean, how is he helping you guys out? I mean,
well,
it seems like there's a great connection there.
The whole thing is a federal thing, you know. Here we're dealing with federal people. Hey, Mark, how are you?
Good.
We're dealing with the federal stuff here. It's different than dealing with, you know, private security goons and local yokels, you know. The problem we're having is that we're dealing with the craziness of a very unaccountable organization called Homeland Security. When they waive 28 laws, the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, and they waive, you know, the Native American Grace Protection and Repatriation Act, and they waive the American Indian Religious Freedom Act. They're telling us, you know, that they're breaking treaties again. I mean, this is known by people that don't give a rat's ass about anything, and that's exactly what they're doing to us. They're breaking more treaties.
So, I mean, who do you think is ultimately responsible for some of this stuff? I mean, is it Donald Trump? Is it, you know, previous administrations?
Right now, it's all everything in Washington. It's basically because they don't come here. They don't know the people here. They don't associate with the people here, and their only association is, you know, the rich, you know, kingly mentalities that they have. So, and now we see them as the 5 R problems. You know, the rich, Republican, redneck, religious right. So those are the things that affect the rest of us, because that means that we can't be who we are. We have to accommodate them to make them happy. So when what happened with this election, even though the popular vote said no, they were able to manipulate the election to make him whoever he is, and that means that the people with power can even create that kind of stuff. And I use the power very 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 loosely, because those bastards, they can't stop the sun from rising, and that's not. And then what they have is not power. It's just lies and misconception and more of it, and it catches up with them sooner or later. And I think we need to be aware of that, and that we ourselves can make a difference if we stand up and make a difference, But if we don't stand up and speak out, we're never going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And as Native people, we have to be okay with who we are. We can't be their Indians. So if they want to recognize us, that's fine. But I'm not going to sit there personally and say, I recognize the fact that you're giving us, to give us the opportunity to be Native. I'm already Native. I don't need them to tell me that. And because if I do that, then I'm agreeing to everything they've ever done to my people. All the raping of our women, the murdering of our children, and the stealing of our lands. That's what I'm recognizing if we do that. I don't want to recognize that. I don't care about that. But I will fight for our lands. And I think we deserve the right to inherently say that, because we're the original people from this land. Before there was Mexico, before it was Texas, and before there was the United States, we were here, and here we are still. And we're not going anywhere. And they need to understand that we're not going to allow this to die. Our culture will not die. Our lifeways are not going to die. Our language is not going to die. And that's where I'm at. Whether I am a product of this society's mentality for a long time, of the brainwashing that's going on, because that's what we all are. We're all brainwashed, and it's called colonization, and people got to accept the fact that us natives are here. We're not the bad people. Everybody's occupying our lands, and the rents do.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm here because I want to learn, and I don't want to be somewhere else thinking and listening to what other people are saying, and I'm hoping the students that I'm doing this for, and then hopefully it gets out to other people as well. But what can you say, or what do you want to say for everybody who can't be here? I'm sitting here talking with you, and I feel so honored.
I think what we need to do is we need to start looking and doing the research in a proper way, and even if the thing comes out. But they should ask us to be part of it, to be part of that research, so people can know the difference between a tribe, a band, and a clan. And nobody goes around saying that they're state recognized when they're only getting, acclamations, a resolution for acclamation. I think we need to revamp the State Indian Commission for those people that want to maintain their autonomy and their sovereignty to the lands and to ourselves. What people need to do is do the research. I mean, really tell the history and start changing, this conservative mentality that's out there that think that everything's got to be white. Because if people don't challenge themselves, they're never going to grow. You're going to learn the same thing that the status quo. That's all you're learning.
I guess you mentioned doing the research. So, for example, people who aren't here, or these students, because these students in Dallas, they're doing the research about all of this, especially as I go along. How do you recommend they do the research from somewhere geographically far from where we are, and from where? We've done research from where we're at, just on the computer now with the technology that we're available. I mean, if you have the resources. And I know universities do that. They have the resources to go into the Library of Congress and to find the evidence that's there. The Smithsonian Institute has a lot of information that has been, kind of excluded from a lot of the learning, because the romanticizing of the American Native culture, and all cultures, because actually. This land belongs to the native original people of the land, all the way from Tierra del Fuego to the North Pole. And the thing is that we've been kept out of the loop for a long time, and now that we're coming in the loop, they see us as activists, and I'm going like, well, if I'm educating you, then and you consider that activism, then there's something wrong with your kind of learning. So I'm not an activist. I'm trying to let you know that we're here and trying to tell you there's a different perspective to all of that. And regardless of
of the poor information that's out there. I think the information just needs to be searched. It's a totally new field that people need to look at, especially in Texas, and especially the University of Dallas, University of Texas at Dallas, because we need Native American studies that are done by people of this land too, not just by the romanticized tribes that are out there.
Yeah.
So.
I guess that's the last question I was curious about. You talk about romanticization, or romanticizing these ideas. In what way do people romanticize them versus reality?
Well, I think a lot of people look at the native, you know, they look for the feathers, they look for the costumes. I'm sorry, ours is regalia, and ours are sacred, and we'll wear them at our ceremonial dances. And a lot of people, you know, they go to powwows and the beautiful feathers are there and everything. And I mean, I have feathers that I wouldn't put out there because I know how people have struggled to get those feathers. It takes Native people 5-6 years, you know, just to get a couple of eagle feathers, you know, from the repository. And it's really hard for people to know to realize that. And some of us, you know, are very happy, you know, just, you know, having our long hair, you know, fly in the wind, you know, but that doesn't make us, you know, any less Native. And because my name is Juan Benito Mancias doesn't make me less Native either, you know.
Yeah.
I'm practically full blood, you know. So I mean, what can I say?
So I keep on asking questions, I'm so sorry, but one more. Everything you say, it reminds me of something else that I'm so curious about. I'm sure these students are as well. One of the questions they're asking themselves in the classroom is what it means to be a Texan, if that term even exists anymore. And I've talked to people of many different...
well, that's part of romanticizing, you know, the Texas history too. I think the movie Geronimo with Wes Studi and Robert Duvall. Robert Duvall makes a statement there. He says that they come up on a Yaqui village that's been massacred, and he says, and he tells people, he says it must have been Texans, because Texans are the lowest form of white man there is. So I think a lot of people need to understand that just because there was the Alamo, that doesn't make those guys heroes. They were just as bad as any of us. They were human. They had a lot of faults. They were racist. They hated, you know, they were plantation owners. And you know, they romanticize it. They romanticize the idea of being a Texan. And that's not what it is to be Somisec to me. That's why we use the word Somisec, because that's what we called this land before it was called anything else.
You call this land Somisec?
Somisec.
Okay. And what?
So, it means just the land of life.
Oh, see, that's beautiful. I mean, everybody I talk to in many ways, you know, that's the way they refer to it in one way or the other, the land of life. The river is very spiritual. I mean, it's just so many important things that get lost with all of this rhetoric about the border wall and about these bad hombres, if you will. So that's really nice. I like that.
But you know, even places like the Devil's River, Devil's Watering Hole, Devil's Sinkhole, those were sacred places to us Native. But as the white man came in, they gave them names like devils because...
That's a really good point.
And we're not the bad people here. We never were. You know, and they're not the Christians they think they are.
Well, thank you so much.
There's a picture up in Post, Texas, in Lake Ellen Henry, and it shows what the missionaries were doing here to us Native people, and that says a lot. It's about 400 years old. So that picture's there, and it shows the Spanish soldiers bringing us into the missions, cutting our feet off, cutting our hands off, sometimes cutting our heads off because we wouldn't convert. So to me, you know, that's the last stand. You know, they cut my head off. I've done what I had to do. I stood up for my people. I'm not a perfect person, and I never pretend to be. I'm just another human being, you know. But I'm not going to allow my people not to be treated like humans. For the future generations, not to be treated like human beings. I am a human being. They are human beings.
Yeah.
That's what Estokna means in our language. That's how we describe ourselves. Carrizo is what the Spaniards called us. Comecrudo is what the Mexicans called us, and the Americans don't even want to see that we're alive. They say we're extinct. I say, kiss my ass.